Are we ready, everybody? Hello and welcome to the Video Social Women Who Photo and Film panel with some amazing female filmmakers who are the Women Who Photo and Film ambassadors for this year. We've got some familiar faces here and some new faces here. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Just a little introduction then. So Women Who Photo and Film originally started last year as Women Who Photo, but it didn't take a lot of persuading for me to convince them to add the title film to it. So, which I'm really, really pleased about. It's all about inspiring and empowering female filmmakers. And so if you're interested in videography in any way, shape or form, that's what this campaign is all about. A little introduction to myself. So my name is Emma Wilson. I have 3 videography businesses. I have Story of Your Day, which is a wedding film company. I film destination weddings all over the world. Story Creatives, which is my corporate company. I do mostly work from where I live locally in Switzerland. Don't hate me now or stop following me. And I also have Evolve Videography Training, where I train mostly female filmmakers. So my background was as a video journalist and broadcaster at the BBC. I was there for over 20 years. And 6 years ago, I left the BBC to take Story of Your Day full time. Soon after doing that, I realized I thought there was a need for a space for female filmmakers. So I set up Female Film Creatives, which is a Facebook group for female filmmakers. There's also a UK Female Wedding Filmmakers group by Leanne and also FSTOT, which is for photographers and filmmakers. So if you're looking at joining any other groups, these are the ones to look out for in the UK. I'm a Canon educator and ambassador for Women Who Photo and Film, and I've been on various podcasts and featured in various publications. So that's why I'm here. I'm really passionate about educating, empowering, and inspiring female filmmakers, and that's why I run my Evolve Videography Training. So I'm going to hand you over now to these lovely ambassadors so they can give you a little introduction to themselves, and then we're going to get straight on with the panel questions. So, Charlene, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I haven't got a script or practice this at all, but basically I'm Charlene. I have used video cameras since I was 6. I had my dad's video camera, and I'm straight out of college, straight into TV and film, and basically just didn't enjoy it as much. I'm more of a northern girl. I think I prefer the slower pace of life. So for the last 10 years, I've been making wedding videos for everyone. I celebrate 10 years in March, and I've even started doing hybrid or photo and video, family photography and videography as well. So that's my new passion and hobby, which I'm enjoying very much. And obviously this year is the first year that I'm ambassador of the Women Who Photo and Film as well. So it's very exciting. But I get to kind of hang out with these sort of girls, and it's been really nice making new connections, I guess. But to do this.
Hi everybody, my name is Lilla Nyeki, and I'm specializing beauty and fashion videos. I'm London-based, also an Interfit UK ambassador. And I used to be a classical musician until I was about 20 years old. And that skill to this day comes really handy when I edit videos where timing and precision is really important. So I have a bit of a musician past, and then I sort of drifted away to visuality. I really became passionate about photography first and then film. And so these days I'm shooting, directing, editing these beauty and fashion films for companies who launch like seasonal campaigns or products. So that's what I'm doing.
Hello, my name is Heather Hughes. I have 2 businesses. One is Art of Life Films, which it focuses on wedding and filming. And the other one is Lightning in a Bottle Productions, and that's corporate, social media, and in particular travel filming, which is what I really love. I'm actually also deaf. I went totally deaf when I was 3, and but really sort of passionate about people who have disabilities being able to follow their dreams as well. So, over to you.
Hello, my name's Leanne, and I know Emma from the broadcast industry. I work for the BBC at the moment. I'm a video journalist, which means that I script, film, research, edit, present my own stories. I'm currently working at the BBC in East Yorkshire and Lincolnshire, but I've been doing that for about 15 years, and I've worked across various different outlets for BBC News, News Channel, Victoria Derbyshire Show, BBC Breakfast and Daily Politics.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm from Merseyside. I'm a wedding photographer and videographer. And I also run a YouTube channel called Microphone Nerds, which is all about inspiring people to get out there and use the cameras more.
Hi, so I'm Mandy Dhillon. I've been doing Asian weddings now for just over 12 years. And about two years ago, I started a YouTube page all about weddings, and it's really successful, got over 60,000 subscribers and about 20 million views. So that's where most of my time is taken up.
Hello, I'm Nathalie Grace. I co-own an independent film company based down in Brighton called Jumpstart. We make independent films that go primarily to film festivals and on demand. I'm a trained cinematographer, underwater videographer, and I've tried my hand at most things to just get on any film I could possibly at the time.
Hold on to that, Mike, because you're up next.
Oh.
So we've put together some questions together to answer, but at the end there will be a chance for you to put your questions to any of the ambassadors up here. So there's no time pressure. We're just going to enjoy ourselves and hopefully give you some inspiration. So the first question is how to decide what area of filmmaking to focus on. So Nathalie, over to you. How did you decide?
So as I lightly implied there, I basically didn't really decide at all. My interest in the film industry is very much evolved as I've grown up, as I've continued to work in the industry. The more I've worked, the more I've realised actually where my skills lie or what my family life will allow. So I started off doing very much production-based stuff for TV because I was nice and young and confident and I thought I could do anything. And then slowly realised that actually I didn't really like the production side. I wanted to be out on shoot. And the way that I ended up working, being able to do that was by setting up my own company. So I thought, well, if no one's going to employ me because I haven't got the experience, then I can't get the experience because no one will employ me. So I was like, okay, I'll go and set up a company, and we have gone from strength to strength in the last 10 years. So I don't think you can choose what part of the filmmaking industry you want to go in. You need to be open and obviously have your own passions and use passion projects as a way of then honing your skills into what you want to hopefully then make your own way, really.
Thank you. So heading straight over to Heather, you started in photography, so tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I started in photography because I was part of a belly dancing group, and they wanted photos of that and for their website and for the shows that they did. And after that, it moved on to taking photos of other dancers and then studio. And then I went to the photography show, and I just wanted to try every single type of genre that was out there. And it's really interesting because you just find that there are certain genres that you just feel excited about. And because if you feel that you could talk about it for ages, and then the people you meet you just like being with, and you end up sort of doing stuff with them, like you were saying, you can't really choose. I think it just happens, and you meet the right people, and that's what happened to me. I suddenly got myself invited to go and shoot a wedding with someone, and it was just such good fun. I thought, yeah, I would try a bit of this. And then that's how things like this sort of evolved. And I met someone who was a photographer who worked in travel, and that led to something else. It really is all about who you meet. People like Emma, and photography show, it's a great place to meet people as well. So.
Yeah, so Heather was actually a bit of a stalker of mine for a couple of years at the photography show. She came to every single talk, but it was always really nice to have a familiar face at the front. And we got talking and chatting, and she really inspired me as well. It's about, it is all about meeting new people. So yeah, that was really fascinating. Lilla, I think you're going to be asking. So, did you have a career plan, or did it change, evolve? What happened?
It's a completely dynamic thing, I think, because at the beginning we probably all have some illusions about how it's going to look like when you're sort of there. And you have to decide, like, what area do you want to specialize in? So do you want to shoot, direct, edit, or do you want to, you know, like, which genre do you want to do? You have to try all sorts of things. I think that helped me the most. So, for example, I started with photography and then sort of got into film, but then sometimes I still do photography. It's like never really quite clear which one is the stronger, probably video now, more so. And also I sort of saw like what area is the one that I'm comfortable in. So yeah, just try everything you can. That's what I would say.
Charlene, your career path has gone a bit like this, hasn't it? And started at a very young age, didn't it?
Yes. I'm only 36. I don't know whether I look older or younger, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's quite interesting. My mum did a wedding speech for my wedding, and one of the things she said was like, I don't know why I didn't think she was going to be a filmmaker, because she always used to make videos with the Sylvanians every day. Try and do stop motion with an SVHS is very interesting with a 4-second rollback. So I was always doing that, but I actually wanted to be art, and it was an accident that I got into media because I went to college to sign up to art, and he was in the toilet. So I got talking to the media guy, and he was like, sign up for me. And I was like, okay. So I just signed up for media at 17, and that kind of set me on the path randomly. And I kind of, it was, again, when you were saying about how you had to choose something to do, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it's because everyone wanted to be a director. The lecturer was like, well, do you want to try this edit thing? We've got an edit suite here. I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's try that. And then he kind of set me on a path of introducing me to the right people, and you make the right connections, and that led on to being a runner for Channel 4, and then stalking the guy in the edit. A lot of stalking goes on in this industry, doesn't it? Making cups of tea for the edit suite guy. He remembered me, lovely enough, a year later, and got me to come on Mr. Bean's Holiday, which is like a massive dream of mine. I'm a big Rowan Atkinson fan. So I try not to be all super fan, and was very professional, obviously. But it just, everything kind of leads onto something with the right conversations. But I kind of soon found out, as much as I loved editing, I didn't actually like being in the intensity that is in the film industry. I don't know if anyone's ever worked there long enough, but no offense to Londoners, I just find it very fast and stressful, and every time I go home, everyone was like, you're walking so fast, why are you in a rush? I was like, I don't know. So I just found I ended up going back up north and enjoying a slower pace and working for independent film companies instead. And then I got made redundant, and I was like, oh, so now what? And that was when, after editing my own wedding video, I thought, actually, I could probably do this. This is quite good. So my husband bought me a website named after our first dance and kind of encouraged me to do that. And I just realized I didn't want to work for someone else ever again. So I just made it work because, well, I didn't want to have to go and work in Tesco was the only other option at that time. No offense to anyone that works in Tesco. But yeah, so it's kind of always been that. And that has probably been the longest section of my life where I've worked in one thing. And I've done 10 years of wedding videos, but then I have started doing photography as well. So I've kind of always got the itch to try something else. And it's definitely about just being a bit open, like we've been saying, isn't it? And although everyone wants to be a director, I thought, oh, we'll try this instead. And it takes you on a different path. It can be quite interesting.
Leanne, on the other hand, is locked into the BBC, which
Yes.
does happen. I know it because I was in that kind of thing that just goes on and on and on. But I actually love my time at BBC, but of course it's completely different because, you know, you're working for someone else. So what about
it's so
your
funny
career
though,
path?
I just have to say about making stop motion films with a camcorder, because I did that when I was a child. That was exactly what I did. But I started out, again, just totally, I didn't want to work in news at all. It wasn't even part of my thinking. I wanted to work in entertainment and films. And I started off my career working as well as, first of all, as a runner, then as a cable clearer, and then as a camera assistant on programs like Emmerdale and Countdown. And just to give you a bit of background, I grew up in Grimsby in the north of England, which is quite a deprived town. And, you know, when I was young and I said I wanted to work in the media industry, people looked at me strange and sort of said, well, what makes you think you can do that? And for me, it was kind of, well, why can't I do that? And so that was how my kind of journey started. But again, similarly, I wanted to do drama when I went to college, and then there was just happened to be a media stand there, and that was how I ended up doing media. So you can't choose it, it chooses you. And although I first started my career in the entertainment industry at the time, 20 years ago, it was very male dominated, and when I was working as a camera assistant, there was no other female technical operators whatsoever, none in sound, none behind the cameras. All the females were either makeup artists or production assistants, and I kind of felt a little bit like it wasn't the place for me at the time. And I applied for a few jobs there and never got them. It was always a man that got it over me. And then I eventually left because I'd started to work for the BBC, and they were much more encouraging and inclusive, an organisation at the time. And so my career sort of went on from there, really. But it's a very different situation to everybody else. I'm paid on a salary to do what I do, so I kind of don't have to find work. It just it comes to me, although I do have to find my own stories on a daily basis, but other than that, it's totally different sort of working to most people, I suppose.
But definitely, I mean, when I started out at the BBC, you couldn't just be a presenter or a reporter. You had to make a choice: filmmaker, editor, presenter, reporter, producer. But then when they came up with video journalist, that's when the door was open to be able to do whatever you liked, and you entered at about that stage, didn't you?
Yeah,
so you are a one-stop shop.
Yeah,
for the newsroom.
and it's almost like you have to make yourself the most multi-skilled person you can possibly think of, and then you will get used. You research, you find your own stories, you film them, you edit them, you script them, you do the voiceover, you do everything. And I think now it is moving a bit more towards that in the news industry. I don't know about anywhere else, just because everything is so accessible and easy to use. So it is moving more towards you being self-operating and doing everything yourself.
Okay, so how do you get noticed? If I can just take that mic. How do you get noticed in the... Oh, there's a bit of reverb, is it? Because I'm too close? I'm just going to pass this to you, Emily. How did you get noticed?
In photography and videography?
Yeah.
I think sometimes being a woman in the industry, it's a double-edged sword. I think particularly like in YouTube space, if there's a woman on the thumbnail, you might earn the click in a male sort of dominated space. But then when they've clicked, you do have to sort of earn the respect as much, if not more. For videography and photography as well, I work with a male business partner, and it's always they'll look at him first before me. And sometimes it's just a little bit like, hi, I'm here, I do this. But it's just having confidence and just being honest and knowing exactly what you can do.
How many of us have worked with a male partner at a wedding and people assume that you're the assistant? I mean, anyone else in the audience? Yeah, you just assume, where's the boss? Me? That'll do. Mandy, do you think it's harder to get noticed as a female?
I film Asian weddings, so in my industry, Asian weddings is just completely male dominated. There's very rare you see an Asian female videographer filming a wedding. So when I'm at a wedding, I get lots of people approach me and say, oh my God, it's amazing to see a female doing this. So I get noticed like that more. I know English weddings, there's lots of, videographers, but in the Asian market there isn't, and especially to see an Indian girl filming. So I get things like, so the photographer, so that's your husband? I'm like, nope. And I get stuff like that. So they always think, so is it your dad's business? I'm like, nope, it's mine. So I think just being a female in the industry, you do honestly just get noticed loads more, I think.
Okay, just keep the mic for a moment because I want to talk to you about price setting. How do you find that?
Okay, so to begin with, it's difficult. My first wedding I ever did, I didn't charge. I didn't want to really get into this as a business. It was just accidentally given to me kind of thing. So I didn't charge my first wedding. And then when I knew I wanted to do this for a living, I decided to just kind of ring around, check with other videographers in the area to see kind of what they were charging, and kind of did it in between, like not too high, not too low, kind of a mid-range, until obviously I knew what I was doing, and then I decided to just up it and up in every year. It's just gone higher and higher, and I think that's probably the best way to kind of do it. Find somebody that's kind of similar to your style, and then kind of take it from there.
I'm just going to go back a bit, actually, because I don't think I really paid much attention to what you're saying just a minute ago, excuse me. You know, you said you think you get noticed more as a woman. Yes, but do you get recognised? Did you get the recognition as a woman, do you think?
Okay, so when I first started, because I think I was the only Asian female that's went into the Asian market. In fact, when I told my family I was going to do this for a living, they all burst out laughing because they thought it'd be impossible for me to do. At that particular time, I had camcorders that were this big and they sat on my shoulder. So they was like, there's no way you can do this, but obviously I've proved them wrong. And then to begin with, I did find that the male photographers or the videographers that were working next to me really did give me a hard time. Things like moving chairs away just before I sat down, stamping of the feet, coming in front of the camera, saying things like, so the bride's your best friend then? Is that why you're filming her wedding? Stuff like that. So it was difficult to begin with. But I think now, 12 years later, I think I've got, I've built the respect with the men. So everybody in the industry, in the Asian wedding industry, if you mention me, they will know who I am.
Definitely.
Yeah. They all know. I mean, I don't know them, but they all know who I am because I've just been in there long enough now, and I've earned the respect of all the men that they actually do all kind of recommend me to work alongside them, which is quite nice.
We'll return now to the price setting question because I know Heather wants to be able to contribute to this. So what about you for price setting? How did you go about it?
Well, I basically sort of sat down and thought about what the cost of my business would be. So it would be my kit, all my things that I need just to run the business on a daily basis. So that's insurance, electricity, etc. So came up with a long list of the costs that I need on a daily basis, and then thought about how many days I wanted to work per year, because you've got to allow for being sick, holidays, etc. And you come up with a sort of hourly rate. But the reality is that at the beginning you can't charge that. But I think it's really important to know how much money you need to charge on an hourly basis in order to make your business work. Because then when someone does come and ask for a quote, in your head what you need to be able to charge to survive on, and you've got an hourly rate that you can justify yourself on. Having said that, at the beginning, you can't do that. People won't pay that, especially if you haven't got enough experience. But I found that it's really important to choose the free jobs and the cheap jobs that you do. I had to make sure, because sometimes I'd be tempted to take a job that wasn't right. I had to think, okay, this is going to take me nearer to my ideal client or the type of work I want to do that makes me happy.
Oh, someone's been listening to some of the things I say to her. It's really interesting, actually, because this question comes up a lot in groups. How much should I charge for this? How much should I charge for that? I don't know if I'm charging my worth, that sort of stuff. But we are all in a completely different situation. My salary isn't what my family depends on. So I've always had the luxury when I started out on my own to make the decisions based on the fact that actually, I was the main salary earner at the BBC, but when I had Story of Your Day and I first started, I certainly wasn't, earning the big bucks. I remember having that conversation with my dad and my husband, and I charged, I think, for my first wedding something like £895, but I had videography, a background, I had BBC experience, which a lot of people liked, and I just would not listen to the fact that they were saying, you need to be charging 3 times as much as that, and I was like, don't be so ridiculous, no one's going to charge that. So what Heather's saying is, it does take a while to build that up, but then you need to start pulling away from the cheap jobs. Yes, if you've got a destination or a venue on your bucket list and you want to film there, or you want to take on a particular job, but it really is about taking it right back and doing that complicated thing of how many weddings or corporate jobs do you want to film, Mandy, and how much do you want to pay for yourself. That's really hard work, and you have to be really, really, really honest with yourself. I only do 15 weddings a year, but then I do my corporate work is much better paid because I'm in Switzerland, so the wages are higher in Switzerland. And I also have my Evolve videography training, so that brings in something else. But God, I remember when I did 23 weddings a year, and that makes me feel sick now to think about doing that many weddings and that many edits. That wasn't films, that was weddings, so it's probably about 50 films to edit, and it's terrifying. So you just need to break it all down and work out, because people think I'm doing this 3 weddings a month and I might get paid X. God, aren't I on a great salary? But who here, apart from Charlene, who has a really good work-life balance, who here really is really good at, putting the downing tools and actually stopping work? We're always constantly working. My husband hates it, but anyway. So I'm going to talk now about where work comes from. So, Lilla, where does your work come from?
So basically for me, about 80% comes through word of mouth, recommendations, and the rest. There's some requests I get through my social media and website, but really it's way more of word of mouth. It's a very nice position to be in when you don't have to sort of go out for the work. And that's what happens when you start to get contacts in the industry and you start meeting people. Your workload will go up exponentially. Like if you do good work, they like you, they find you easy to work with. That's what will happen, and the ceiling is really what you're capable of handling, so you obviously have to have a life in the same time. So it's really word of mouth, which isn't helping me to up my social media game, because I'm really not motivated for it, so I'm super lazy to Instagram. I know I should, but it's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same for my Story Creatives. I don't do anything with that because it's all referrals, but I should try harder with the others as well. Yeah, great, that's great.
So it's quite interesting about referrals. So I did an audit of my business. I've started getting really serious now. I don't wing it anymore, believe it or not. It's been 10 years. But I kind of went over where all my referrals have been coming through the last few years, where my ideal clients were coming. So when I was looking at who'd booked me, who I really liked and would like more of, where were they coming from, how were they finding me? And I noticed there was in fact, I think it was like all of the 4 Instagram clients I had in 2018 were from Instagram, and they found me on stories and everything else. I thought, I need to push this. So I went from 21% bookings in 2018 on all of my social media to 55% last year on just Instagram alone. And they all commented on how they really felt that they could trust me from seeing my face on stories, which I hate doing. I feel like an absolute tool talking to myself in my kitchen. But my clients love it, and it's kind of made me, I think if you can see those gaps, like I just don't want to rely on referrals. So I had a photographer that used to give me all of her work in about 2014-15, and she moved to Dublin, and I was like, shit.
How dare she?
And bookings just went down. I think I had like half the weddings the year after, and I was like, what? So I thought, well, you've got to find your own work. And so I know you're obviously not that interested, but Instagram is a massive thing, and I think if you can really, you feel confident enough and you can push through the fear of putting yourself out there, it's a massive tool to kind of connect with people in a genuine way, so that's why I've been using it loads.
That leads really nicely on to confidence. So how did you feel when you did that first Instagram story? Or even how do you feel now?
It was, I remember someone was like, oh, this would be really good for you. You're quite confident and you should do it. And she challenged me to put my face on once a day for a week. And at that time, it was only 15 seconds on stories.
That, Laura?
It was actually, yeah. So I remember it took me 3 hours that first day just to do 15 seconds. I was walking around my garden swearing and just like, oh, I sound like an idiot. No one's going to listen to this. And then by the end of the week, I was like, oh, no, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, and it's always been 2 years and you can't get me off the thing. And everyone always comments on, oh, well, your stories are really good. And I feel like an idiot. But it's just really nice when you, a client, you know that they've already built that trust, and there's just there's no need to put in all that hard work to kind of persuade them to do anything because they already feel that they know you.
So we shared the same business coach briefly, didn't we? So that's where that happened. But when I did my first Facebook Live into a group of all people that are my friends, I did the same thing. I went over and over and over and over, and I had to go out, and my husband came in and said, are you going to do it? Are you actually going to do it? Are you actually going to do it? Now I quite enjoy it. Natalie, what about you? How do you stick with the confidence?
I think, it's just about believing in yourself. I am also not very good at social media, but I have surrounded myself with a team that I am confident in, and likewise, they then make me more confident because I trust their skills and they can then trust me to do what I do, to be honest. So I think along the way, along the journey, the confidence has definitely been very up and down in terms of, you know, you come across people that are questioning you in a way that makes you less confident because suddenly you then think, oh, actually, do I know as much as I think I know? I think I know as much as I think I know. And then I went away, I took some time out to have a family, and when you come back from that, that was a massive confidence drop for me. I was very much a DOP working on feature films, and then I was suddenly, oh gosh, actually, I've been out of it for a couple of years. Don't know whether actually I know all the technical advancements that have happened in that time. I haven't got time to learn. So then I was like, it's okay, I'm just going to sit back and do some production management for now because I know that I could do that from my training. So you just have to sort of muck in and do what you can and what you're confident with, and then eventually it comes back anyway, you know. Get out there, and I was going off and filming my own little documentaries and being like, I can do this, it's fine. I just... Then everyone trusts you to get back up there again. So.
Just being a little bit of a control freak here. Are the guys looking after Emily's camera? Great. Emily, your turn. Confidence.
That camera is the key to my confidence. Even 2 years ago, this would have been my worst nightmare. And I got over bit by bit just by sitting in my PJs, staring down the barrel of the camera, thinking, if this is terrible, I can just delete it. No one ever has to know. But just it is like you guys said, it's repetition. You know, the more time you spend hearing yourself talk and sort of critiquing yourself, the more confidence you get in front of the camera, and definitely for social media as well.
So let's talk about promoting ourselves now, and I'm handing straight over to the queen of promotion, Mandy Dhillon. Don't be shy, tell everybody, you know, you have done amazing on YouTube.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, somebody said, somebody was like, oh, you should start a YouTube page about weddings. I wanted to do something slightly different, and I didn't want to just do the same old put your wedding highlights on and everything like that. So I decided to take a little bit of a different angle and decide to kind of interview the suppliers so that future clients can have a look at the footage of different cake makers and, I don't know, bar staff and all that, and then kind of put it together. So it was a funny angle because I was giggling a lot and interviewing photographers and interviewing sometimes the parents and stuff like that. So it kind of started from that. It blew quicker than I ever expected. So like I was saying earlier, 60-something thousand subscribers in a couple of years and about just over 20 million views. So it's good, and I think that's how I use that a lot. A lot of people, again, see me on that, like what you were saying, Charlene, about the funny side of me and the giggly side of me and the stupid side of me, and they like that side of me, and I think that's why they kind of book me, so I kind of use that to promote myself a lot.
I think promoting yourself, you know, it can be so diverse because there are some areas of my life that I find that I can promote myself really easily. One job has led to a bigger job and bigger contracts in Switzerland. It's very rare for there to be female filmmakers working in Switzerland. In fact, I had a press badge recently and it said cameraman on it. With my wedding side of things, really find it easy to promote myself. But when it comes to Evolve, I can promote myself in my own groups. But when it comes to sharing amongst male groups or mixed groups, I have a really bad case of imposter syndrome, and I hate it. And I actually have to go away and get people to kick me up the arse to actually do it. I can take ages just to press post. You know, I write completely differently, so it really does depend on where you're promoting yourself to. But just close your eyes and do it. That's what I'd say. So talking about setbacks, because I've certainly had a few setbacks in some groups that I've posted in, we'll head straight over to Leanne. What's been your biggest setback?
Well, I think at this stage it's really important to talk about not just setbacks in people's careers. Everyone has setbacks in their career, don't they, where they didn't get a job they thought they was going to get, or somebody else gets a job over them or whatever. Everyone always goes throughout that. But I think for me the biggest setbacks are things that have just happened out of the blue, that have happened to me in my personal life. And that's going to happen to anybody and everybody, you know, whether it's a death in the family, whether it's an illness, whether it's, you know, something that just totally changes your life in a positive way, like a marriage or having a child. And so for me, the biggest challenges in my life of when something's happened I've not expected, and you've perhaps, you know, gone through a period of real trauma in your life. So I think it's really important to say that, you know, for anybody who's new and just starting out, for us as female filmmakers, a lot of the time you're working by yourself and you're working on your own. And so it's really important to get out there, meet other people, create a network, you know, like Emma does online, you know, whether it's online or face-to-face, and just, you know, really get friends and help each other. You know, no one's kind of like your rival. You're all in it together. So I just wanted to kind of give that bit of advice to people out there, that for me the biggest setbacks are the ones in my personal life I wasn't expecting, and the only way that I got through it was through having people to help and support me with it.
But I guess it can be really hard, can't it? Because, you know, you've got to keep you've got to keep it together when you're working in news, and you've got to keep like a front on, and that must be so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, people have said to me in the past, "Oh, you've coped so well with, you know, such and such," and it's like, I haven't actually, but it looks like I have, because you've got to keep that front on. And I've been lucky in the sense that I work in a large organisation, and we have help and support available to us if we need it. You know, we can access free counselling and things like that. If you don't work for a large organisation, you don't always have that. So that's why it's really important to build up your friendships and your networks. And
I don't know about female videographers that are, you know, filming weddings and stuff. I have fears that, you know, my children might become ill, or I might become ill. I've got a really old dog. He's a really major part of my life. Anyone that's close to me knows that. He's literally on his last legs. Every time I go away, I fear for him. You know, I ring my husband and ask about him and not the kids. Really is that bad. And I have to have these continuing. It's really, really hard. And I don't know if everyone else feels that way. Charlene, what have your setbacks been?
I don't feel like you're saying, well, you know, people have kids all the time, it's fine. Well, I struggled massively. I've always been a perfectionist. I'm quite happy to admit that, to the point where I had therapy over it. I was such a bad perfectionist, it was like taking over my life.
Or good perfectionist.
Well, it can be good, but it's terrible at times. And so when we started a family and had a child, it turns out that you can't actually do everything that you did before you had that child. And being the organizer I had all my lists. I'd sorted life. I was having this maternity leave, and then we were doing this, and everything would carry on as normal because I'd allowed this time, and it doesn't work like that at all. So it's pretty much taken me 5 years to kind of get from that hurdle of having a child and thinking, oh yeah, I can't do that anymore. It can't be that way. So with the help of support and having family around you and therapists and everything else, it just kind of, it helps you take a step back and look at how you want to go ahead. And as you know, balance is a big thing for me, and I wasn't going to work 15 weddings a year and bust an ass and never see my kids or my husband, and we all hate each other. I wanted to make sure I could take a step back, and I was very fortunate to have a husband that earns enough money to kind of cover everything that we could do that. But I just think mental health plays a massive part in our lives, and especially what you're saying, being isolated and being on your own. And I kind of took such a step back that it was just me. It wasn't even me, actually. There was just a child that I needed to make sure stayed alive and work, and that was it. So it kind of, it's allowing yourself that time to go, do you know what, I need to take a step back and I need to work through it.
I guess, and the thing is, we all have these online personas, don't we, that everything's great and everything's fantastic, and it really isn't all the time. And, you know, our advice to you would be, you know, to reach out to your friends, to stay connected, especially when you're in an isolating business, because it's just so important, you know, not to keep it all inside.
Yeah, and I think that's where I lost a lot of work again. I found like it took me about 3 years to catch back up with where I was, because I wasn't networking, I wasn't talking to anyone. I was literally just I was edit, next wedding out. Oh wait, I've got no weddings now because I've not done anything. So it's just being aware, I guess, and taking the time to be aware.
I mean, some of these things I wish I'd known, you know, when I left the BBC, a secure staff job, which doesn't come up anymore, does it? I mean, how many staff jobs are there now? There are not very many. My dad didn't talk to me for 3 months when I left the BBC, folks. 3 months. So what did you wish you knew from the outset, Nathalie?
I think to know that it can be a bit of a long journey. You do have to do some jobs that you don't necessarily want to do, You do have to do some free work, but it really is worth it when you get past all of that. It is fun, and I'm getting to that stage now where I'm sort of able to carve out the job that I want to do and the type of work I want to do. So it is possible. One of the best pieces of advice I was given when I went to the media show, actually, at the Birmingham NEC, and they said to make sure that if you're going to go into film or the film industry, to not study film. And that actually did help me, because you've then got something else to bring to the table. You know, you're not just trained in film, because at the end of the day, the film is ever evolving, as I was mentioning, and you learn the technologies that you need to learn as per the job that you're doing. And actually, it's better to be a more rounded person, to study something else so you can bring that to the table. So yeah, that was the best piece of advice.
And Emily, what did you wish you knew?
A lot. We touched on it before, really. The main thing for me in my journey was I got stuck doing the lower paid jobs because I didn't really have faith in my own abilities. And lower paid jobs come with their own issues, because when people book you for price, they don't book you for your product. And it's better to make sure that price isn't so much of an issue and charge a bit more, so that when you do get the bookings, people are booking them because they love you and wouldn't have anybody else. And it makes your life 10 times easier, and you earn more money. Everybody wins.
Mandy, what advantages do you think you have as a female videographer in your particular genre?
You can mic the bride up, put your hands down a bra and not have to worry about it. But generally, I find that we do... big advantage, trust me. You do become, I think, kind of best mates with the bride, and you kind of have a better relationship with them. So I just find it so much more better, and I think if you have that friendly relationship, it's just so much more easier, and that's what I find anyway.
I'm going to go straight on to Charlene, because you have great relationships with your brides in particular, don't you? Do you think?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's same as, because I was trying to think, I was like, it's more them allowing you into those intimate moments, but not just hands down bras, but as in, I've had a lot of times where they've requested like the photographers or the makeup artists to leave the room, and they've let me stay in, and it's whether it's just been something simple as getting undressed and getting changed, or it could be like when there was one example where she wanted to read a letter from her grandma that had passed away, and she just asked everyone to leave apart from me, and I was allowed to stay, and I don't know, I think it's because obviously I'm married, so I have that experience, I understand those worries and concerns that they would have had, but I think I spend a lot of time letting them get to know me and kind of building that trust, I guess. It's a big trust element that comes with that, I think.
Leanne, do you think that you're sent on particular stories because you're a female?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just instantly makes people feel a bit more relaxed and at ease for some reason. And again, I think with people doing their own online content as well and showing their face, for me, because I'm quite well known in the area that I'm from, and sometimes I have to go and interview people or try and get people to come and talk about a particular subject who weren't expecting a camera in their face, put it that way. You know, they haven't invited me. I might just be, going to do a vox pop or something like that. And straight away, I'll say, oh, hi, my name's Leanne, I'm from the BBC. And they go, oh, yeah, I know who you are. And I go, will you talk to me about this? Yeah, sure. So I kind of have that advantage of that some people already know me from seeing me on the TV, so they'll instantly talk to me. So I think, again, that's a good thing, is to get yourself on social media, get your face known, and you're instantly just more friendly. And I think just being female, kind of people open up to you a bit more. And I think as well, when it's just you and your camera, it's a very intimate setting. And for me, I have to sometimes talk to some people about very difficult periods in their life and get them to recall very traumatic events. So they have to feel at ease with you. And if they don't, then you're not going to get what you want out of it. You're not going to get great content, which is what we all want.
Yeah, because when there was the terrorist attacks, 7 years ago, was it in Turkey? I was the reporter that was sent to knock on someone's door who'd lost a family member. I don't think they would have considered sending a male VJ from the newsroom, but they tend to, on those delicate stories, kind of send the The most persuasive people out, but they'll always go for the women.
It's just less intimidating, I think. You know, if you've got a man in a suit who's knocking on your door wanting to talk to you, you're probably just going to slap the door in their face straight away.
So let's talk about raising profiles then. I'll just grab the mic again because I want to ask Nathalie about how do you think the best ways are to raise your profile as a female filmmaker?
Yeah. So again, I've cheekily done it through, again, surrounding myself with all the right people. And if you get a good team on board to make films, then those people will want to work with you again. They'll promote you as a person. They'll promote you as a company, in my case. And that's ultimately raising your profile without doing a huge amount of work other than being a nice company to work with, a nice team to work with. So we try our hard, like our crews and our film sets we call our Jumpstart family, because in that shooting time they are our family, and so each of those individuals are then talking about Jumpstart in a positive way, and ultimately us as the filmmakers behind it, myself and my co-owner. So yes, surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, I'd say it's also really important to network and to, I mean, I'm an affiliate of different companies. I know Emily, you make loads of money, don't you, from being an affiliate as well? Yeah. But, and becoming an ambassador, being on podcasts and featuring in publications. These will boost your own confidence, but they will also make people think or make people realize that you're an expert in your field. So I was recently in Rangefinder magazine talking about the leveling the playing field for female filmmakers. And that takes me straight on to the next question with how important is it to level the playing field for female filmmakers? I mean, obviously I would say that it's overwhelmingly important. We need to be out there making sure everybody knows how awesome we are. What do you think?
How awesome we are.
We are awesome, aren't we?
I think when I worked with smaller production companies, they were very male-dominated, especially in edit suites. I don't think I ever came across a female editor in the years. I don't think I came across a female editor at all. Everyone was production side. I kind of just feel like, especially on Miss Bean's holiday, I think being in that one girl in a room of 10 guys, it's nice to have someone feel like your opinion's valued. So, and then when you step up, I think it just brings another layer to it. I think sometimes a masculine approach can lead one direction, whereas I think it can be a little bit more varied if there's different opinions, because I think as women we bring different life experiences and different feelings and emotions and that sort of thing. So it's definitely that. I'm trying to think what else I could talk about with weddings as well, I guess. I mean, for me, I don't know if it's a northern thing or a south divide. I know when we were talking before bringing me on, apparently it's quite male heavy down south, but I find there's just so many female videographers up the north that, I don't know, there's quite a lot of it. So it's quite a nice level, I guess, where I am.
You feel like you're represented well enough?
I think so, but then I think it's just what I know. Yeah. So I surround myself with a lot, especially now I know that I don't want to be isolated. I think I surround myself with the right people. I'm not seeing such a divide. I'm not getting as many comments as, who's like talking to Paul, who's the boss? And I'm like, it's her, not me. So what
about you, Nathalie? What do you think, how important do you think it is?
I think it's very important, and actually at Jumpstart we very much so. I'm female, my business partner's male, so we've got a 50-50 split right from the off. Like the two core members of Jumpstart are 50-50, and we have tried to, in the last 3 films, have made a conscious effort to try and have a 50-50 split of female to male crew members, and that's worked really well for us. You know, from various point of views. You know, there's often you have a split of 50-50 cast members as well, and so it's good for female cast members to have female crew members to work with, and you know, at the end of the day, it's not even about gender. You know, you just need to consider someone and consider the best person for the job, and if you're open to talking to a split number of males and females, then in most circumstances you'll find that there's a 50-50 split.
How many of us, hands up, are full-time in their job as videographers on the panel? Yeah. So that leads me on to having a work-life blend. I will, you know where that comes from. Anyway, I will come to Charlene, because as far as I'm concerned, she's completely nailed this, and I always tag Charlene when anyone asks anything in the group about work-life blend, balance. Charlene can help. But we'll go to Lilla first.
Okay, how do I do it? I don't really have one. The thing is, I try to structure my business in a way that it resembles an office a little bit. So, like, if I go on holiday, I set up automatic replies, like out of office, not working. If, like, an email comes at midnight, I'm not going to reply on principle, like between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., maybe 6 p.m. Or if there's an exception, like a client needs something that we earlier agreed on, that it's going to be a really quick job, they need it delivered like the next morning, that's a different story. But generally, you need to prioritize your needs and your mental health, because it's so easy to burn out. It happens so quickly, and you just kind of lose perspective of why am I doing this? And that's not a very healthy place to be. So have hobbies, for example. Hobbies are a great outlet. Have passion projects. Yep, that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, I think not many of us do that, do we? I mean, I'll answer an inquiry at any time of night. I am dreadful, but I know, Charlene, you're quite good at this, aren't you?
I say no a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I automate a lot. I think it just stems from, I've been there where you burn out and it's not fun. I think I spent 3 Christmases sick as a dog. Couldn't even celebrate New Year with anyone because I was just on Lemsips in bed. And it's just not good. You don't want to work to the point where when you do take a week off that you're just sick for the whole week because you've burnt out. So I take holidays. I take a lot of them. I remember being, a lot of peers were very miffed at the point that I took a whole May off once to celebrate being 30. I went on a West Coast road trip. So I turned down about 15 weddings that month, and because it's important for me to have a life as well. So I know people seem to not like saying no, but I just say no. I limit how many work. I automate all of my social media, like you say. I'm not doing that every night. I switch my laptop off when Paisley finishes school now at 3, which has made my days a lot shorter than they used to be, but we're working on it. And then that's it. It's just family time, and I don't do anything in the evening either.
Apart from be with your family.
Well, yes,
just
but just no work. Yeah, work is work and life is life, and I think you need to make time for life, otherwise, like you say, you get burnt out.
Before we get on to the last question, is there anyone else that wants to contribute to that? Yeah.
To the previous. So basically, when you book a holiday, right? So I booked a festival in June, just a week ago, and I already know definitely something big is going to come on that week, and I'll face the dilemma, because it always does, and I'll face the dilemma, what should I do? So if you're worried about losing your client, there's something you can do. You can outsource some of the job. For example, I could outsource it for someone to shoot it, and then I would keep all the rest of like the editing part of it. So that way, I don't have to worry if a client would book someone else and they would ask them the next time for whatever reason. So just bear that in mind, that you can always outsource things. If it's getting too much to you, that's actually a really good way to avoid burnout, to start, having a great team you can give these little jobs to as subcontractors. And also, it's great that we're at this now, because I can say you can use this as a tool to empower other female videographers and give these jobs to female videographers, because that's what someone I know does. She's really committed on like every little thing she needs help with, give that to a female videographer or photographer, and that way we actually can really actively raise our profiles and our presence in this industry.
So we'll just pass that to Heather. We're just up to the last question now, which is about what kit we use. It's a bit of a technical question, but to keep you all happy, I don't like really talking about kit, and I certainly don't like talking about bit rates and codes and stuff like that. But obviously, it's an important question. For me, it's really important that you know your kit and you get the best out of your kit, and there is no point in just keeping up with the Joneses and getting the latest camera, because the camera you had before didn't perform less yesterday. So it's about taking each part of a bit of equipment that you have and getting to know it really, really well. And you know, that way you can find your style, you can work on your style. And that goes for me, it goes for cameras. I'm obviously with Canon, but tempted to look elsewhere if they don't hurry up and sort their lives out. And it's also to do with lenses. We see lots of conversations about lenses, and I use this prime lens and I use that prime lens. And if anyone was going to ask me what my go-to lenses are for wedding videography on the day, it's a 24-70 because it gives me a lot of flexibility, allows me to work with a photographer. I have lots of prime lenses, but I know when to use them. For my corporate films, I'll actually sometimes use my mobile phone. I'll use my Osmo Pocket and my GoPro, and in terms of a lens, I'll use a 24-105 because it gives me more scope when I don't want to take loads of kit out with me. So lots of people ask lots of questions about what kit you should use, and my advice is don't have this all the gear, no idea. Just get to know what kit you have and make the best of it. I mean, I think there was recently a video out by iPhone, wasn't it? And it was just unbelievable. So there are amazing things that you can do with equipment. It's not what you use, it's how you use it. Heather, what kit do you use?
I totally agree with you. I think when I first started, I used to take almost like a trunk with me, and there's nothing worse than being on a beach where you get washed over with waves, and you've had to climb down mountains to get there, and it's just awful. It's just really disheartening. So I always take the minimum I can have to tell the story, and it's quite often, sometimes it could just be the phone, or it could be a smaller camera. I'm also Canon. I do have a big camera, which sometimes is quite useful for some corporate jobs, but generally I'm a Canon 5D Mark IV, or my phone, and actually more importantly is sound. I do have about 6 million pieces of sound equipment because it just depends on where you're going to be, what the room's like, whether you're outside, indoors. Probably Emma can probably talk. Emma's the expert.
I mean,
on
for me, audio is half the story, and I've got as much audio equipment as I do have camera equipment and lenses. So it's really, really important for me. Before we came here today, Rick Bronx from Satirize did a live stream on how to film with your iPhone. I'm going to be looking at that later, just because he had loads of little bits of kit, and he had his Osmo Pocket, and he had his iPhone, but it was just really interesting how you can take your filming to the next level if you stop thinking about what you're using and concentrate on what you're trying to actually film and the story that you're trying to tell, and that's the most important thing. So we've kind of finished the questions that we put together now, so I'd like to ask if there's anyone on the floor who has any questions. Adam will bring you a microphone, and you can direct it to any of the ambassadors. Oh, has it? Okay.
It's working.
Oh.
So, Charlene, I've got 2 questions for you, if that's okay. First one, you were talking about going live on your stories, just your face speaking. I'm really curious about what kind of things you're talking about. Are you trying to make it businessy, related to what they might buy from you, or is it just shit?
It's just shit. Essentially, yes. I think you can overthink it. I've definitely found over the whole year, the more I try and be strategic about it, the more then I start overthinking it and then a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a sprinkle of everything. Most of the stuff that people comment on when they come and meet me or book me or even on the wedding day is always the nonsense. So whether it was, there was one video shared of my husband standing on the kitchen table, and I'd walked in on him and Paisley singing The Greatest Showman on the table, as they do. And I always get comments, or I did a boomerang with a sequin skirt on, and that always get just really random stuff. Everyone knows I like drinking tea a lot out of a Spice Girls mug. No one ever comments on the work stuff. I find that the stories is your opportunity to be you. Show off the behind the scenes. I do weddings, and that's really good for engagement because I'll tag all the suppliers in, and I'll show the venue, and that gets shared a lot. But a lot of the time, it's the other stuff that everyone comments on, which I know is a bit weird for everyone, but I think once you just get over it,
No, that's fine, because that's what I do, but I've just wondered whether that's what you're supposed to do.
It's weird. I think you'll start seeing trends. So obviously I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I definitely find that the genuine, I have stalkers essentially. That's what all my followers are, stalkers. So I'll notice someone will follow me, and they will never engage with me for at least 3 to 6 months. And then all of a sudden it starts trickling in, and then I'll get an inquiry because it would have been a bride. So it's a long game, Instagram stories. And if you never, especially like when you put a question on and no one answers it, you're like, God, what was the point of that? And they won't at first. They've got to gain that trust. So give it 6 months, 12 months, and then eventually I think you'll start seeing that sort of thing. It does work eventually.
Okay, cool. And then the next question kind of leads into that. So you said, I spend a lot of time letting my clients, couples, get to know me.
Yes.
And I just wondered how that kind of manifests. Is that because you have face-to-face meetings with them, or because they watch all your stories?
Yeah, a lot of people. I have found that since I've been on Stories more, I don't have as many face-to-face meetings. I've got one on Sunday randomly, they just and then you turn up on the day and they'll start having a conversation with you that you must have said something on Stories 6 months before, but you completely forgot about, and then you have to kind of go back and think, what the hell are they talking about? But yeah, I love a face-to-face meeting. I think, and I home make brownies. We were saying that, wasn't I? I make brownies for my clients that come around, and I just make it a real experience. For me, it's a customer experience. I used to work in retail when I was running for free and stuff, so it's definitely all about creating an experience so that they feel they can trust you, and then on the day they feel really comfortable around you, and it's an experience more than a relationship, I guess, and it just works. A lot of my brides, I end up being friends. We went to a concert recently with 2 of my brides.
I heard recently that if you've got, it's not stories, Instagram stories, but your posts in a grid of 9, there should be always a picture of you, either behind the scenes picture or a picture of you with one of your clients, but just something that, because I had always kept my story of your day quite professional, but now when I heard this, I'm trying now in a grid of 9 so people can kind of have that relationship.
Pretty much every time I put a picture of myself, I only have 3 professional pictures of myself. It's terrible. But every time I put them on, there'll be 4 or 5 times the engagement. And even just from likes or someone, oh, that's a lovely picture of you. I never saw it the first time. So I think it's reusing that content as well. It's quite nice.
Anyone else? Yes?
You mentioned having a business coach. How did you find them, and would you recommend it? Was it worth it?
We have got very different stories on that. Oh, I feel bad now because I think I recommended her. But no, I don't have a business coach either anymore. I mean, it's positive and a negative. They can be quite expensive, and they are very expensive. Well, the one that we used has become more and more expensive. And then some of the stuff, I think you can get out there from other places now, can't you? I definitely think that just being part of groups of female entrepreneurs can give you as much help. But in terms of actually booking those hourly slots, it can be... Yeah, but you can have an accountability partner, couldn't you, just as easily? I do something called a 24-hour work marathon every couple of months, and so far only one person has joined me on that. That's Heather, last Thursday. No one else in my group, girls. Are you all too tired? Can't do this. And just... I like my sleep. But just this sort of stuff that, me and Heather were messaging each other at 3 in the morning, 6 in the morning. How you doing? Oh, I feel like shit. But we were getting loads and loads of work done. I don't think you've recovered yet, have you? It was last... She's really ill now. But I would always recommend a 24-hour work marathon. It's really good. But
it's worth a try. I think, although I broke contract from mine, yeah. Because it was too expensive, they make a lot of promises, and I think although it was a recommendation and I put a massive load of trust, and it's not against you, I'm very grateful for the experience. However, it was too expensive. These promises of me earning tens of thousands of pounds per commission, I'm not that type of videographer. I'm more personable, and I build relationships, and it's not about the money for me, I'm sorry. It's about the experience and fulfillment, and everything else comes with it, and I just realized that wasn't for me. However, I have an amazing network of people that I kind of take from and give back, obviously, as well. But I think if you can find your tribe, 'cause I've got a badge on my bag that says that, but it's finding people that you can learn from, but can also help back. And if you can have that circle of people that you can trust, and that's, for me, is more beneficial than paying someone lots of money to mentor.
Charlene, of course, isn't saying that you shouldn't invest in yourself and invest in your business and learning and training, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is with business coaches is that it does become a little bit of a spiel, a running spiel, and it becomes about how much money you earn. And that success is different for everybody. And I learned from Charlene a lot about success, and and aspire to be more like her, because for me, the balance she has in her life is much more successful than mine. I find it really hard to say no. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, Karen at the front.
I quite like your 24-hour thing. I think I might join you next time. I'm sure you get loads of work done. I just want to ask, I know you've all covered about your business and projects and having spare time, but haven't heard anybody say anything about maybe the other side, about entering competitions and whether you do that, and does that actually help your business as well?
I'll start by saying I stopped filming weddings for awards a long time ago because I found that I was starting to re-edit films to win awards, and that for me didn't make me happy, because I want to make films for my clients. I think it's quite good to have badges, but they soon get out of date, and then you kind of get in this thing of wanting it. Well, I was award winning last year, but I'm not this year. That doesn't mean I'm not as good. I just didn't enter it anymore, so it can get into a treadmill. Does anyone here feel like they want to answer that question? Heather.
I went for one this year, and it is good fun, and you do meet suppliers to it, but often there's money involved. I found with the one that I did that it led to, oh, you've been nominated, would you like a ticket to come to the awards ceremony? And they tend to be quite expensive. But having said that, it's a great networking opportunity, but make sure for me, I wasn't wild about it. I think I would pick the competitions quite carefully if I went for one again. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything.
I will say in the wedding industry that depending on your clients, that some do like someone that's had an award. So they will pick someone who's award winning over someone who isn't. So if it's something that you kind of aspire to be and feel that it will help your business start with, it's worth considering. I mean, photography is a lot easier to get an award. I've got like 5 awards for my family photography in a year. I won like gold in family. Yeah, so I was like, but I just think like I can literally like throw a few photos in an award and I get a gold. It's like, oh, okay, nice one. It's like, but I've got like 4 badges now for photography, but not one person has booked me because I've got an award for the photography. They've booked me because they've seen the work, usually on Instagram, to be honest. But so I think it can help. It can be quite a good benefit. But it's like the networking and things we were saying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely about knowing your clients. You know, when it comes to, do you want to enter an award? I agree with you there.
An award-winning photographer for my wedding.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh,
can I just add one more thing to that really briefly? Do you find your work is more emotive than it would be from a male filmmaker?
Yes. I think female videographers have a more feminine, a romantic approach to films, but that would be very generic, and everyone else is going to feel completely differently. I mean, you know, when I'm hanging off a cable car in Switzerland filming the projects that I'm doing and hanging out of helicopters, I'm not, you know, I hope they don't think that my films look like they've been filmed by a female. I just think that they just don't think about it. But for weddings, I think a lot of male videographers think that we have an advantage in that way, because we do that.
Yeah, I think I tend to pick a male videographer assistant with every wedding. I've used Paul now for 3 years. He is actually quite feminine, and all the guys love him, but the mums love him as well. But I find that he has more of a creative eye, so he's always spending ages looking at the shot and working how he's going to get the shot and what sort of light he's getting, whereas I'm looking all around that picture and noticing that grandma's talking to someone over there. I should be getting that shot next, I should be getting this. I'm thinking, Paul, you're missing the shot. So I think that we look at the wedding differently, but then that works really well together at the same time when it comes to the edit.
Do any of the girls at the front who keep gossiping have anything to say? Leanne, Caitlin, Heather?
Well, there's one behind you.
Let Caitlin just ask something quickly. Stop them gossiping. Oh, do you want one?
Oh, hi. I was just going to ask, there's a few filmmakers that I follow on YouTube for kind of inspiration and tutorials, like Premier Gal and Peter McKinnon. Is there anyone that you guys would recommend? He's awesome.
Quite a few of us might be a member now to How to Film Weddings. It is an American group, but it's actually quite nice, and it's a really friendly American group, and they have lots of tutorials as well. Anyone else? Does anyone?
You kind of want to get your own style as well, so it's kind of difficult. The more people you follow and the more people you kind of keep looking at, the more times you put and you're putting pressure on yourself thinking, I can't film a wedding until I do that. But actually you can just film a wedding with one camera, one audio recorder and one tripod and monopod, and you can actually do it just like that. So I think the less, sometimes when you start in the business, the better.
This is just sort of a general one for everyone. So what you're currently doing, whether it's weddings, feature films, corporate, do you want to stick on that path for the rest of your career, or do you want to change and try something new, or do you know?
I'll just start by saying I'd like to film less, and I love editing and edit more. I'm getting older. My back hurts. I miss my children, and I do love my training and mentoring. But then I'm a bit of a control freak, so I also don't like the idea of asking someone else to film stuff for me. Anyone else?
I think what I love most about wedding films is telling the story. So I think I'd like to try and do more documentary, not necessarily weddings, and just find individual people's stories, whether that's corporate or someone who's special. I'd like to try something a bit different.
Lilla, you were saying about passion projects. I love them.
Yes, for example, when you have a client, clients normally ask for changes. They have their own vision. They know how they want to present their brand to the world, and that's very important for us to respect, because essentially they're paying our costs, so that's fair enough. But I found it's enormously easier to kind of, it's just easy to deal with all that if you have passion projects where you don't have anybody telling you how to do things, and you just put all that creative energy into making it a little baby. It's your baby, it's your brainchild. So that's, I think, is what is helping me keep a balance in that sense.
I personally am going to look at changing the way I do things, and I think it's really important that everyone needs to move with the times as well. The industry and things change, and at the minute things are changing, quite rapidly. For me in news, I provide stuff for TV. Most young people now don't watch the news on the telly. Everyone's going on social media to get their news on their mobile phones. So, I'm now going to look at, what I can do to make my content work better for mobile. And that's doing news reports in a totally different way to how they're traditionally on the TV. So that's where I'm going to look at, and in news as well, things are changing so much in terms of technology. I had a colleague recently who filmed a whole report just on a mobile phone and edited it on a mobile phone. So, things are changing. Yeah. Yeah.
Generate content, and broadcasters love computer-generated content. They prefer that than their own.
And with the passion projects, I started when I wanted to kind of do stuff for me. I was filming my daughter quite a lot, so I was trying to film it every day. So I was kind of creating all these little mini movies from just our life together, because I felt it was really important to capture because it goes so fast. And then that's actually ended up now being part of the business model, because I just love it so much. I really want to kind of do that for other people. So it's quite interesting that sometimes you do it as a passion project, but it can lead to something more exciting, I guess.
Any more questions? Oh, one right at the back. Yeah. That mic's doing well, isn't it?
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to know, when first starting out making feature or independent films, how did you kind of raise awareness, or gain funding for it?
Oh, that doesn't apply to me at all, does it? Yeah.
So it was a very big thing when we started out in 2009, crowdfunding. So that's how we did it. We got all my family and friends to give us a bit of money. Our first feature film we made for £3,000. Very proud of that. It hasn't really done a huge lot, but it did make its £3,000 back. So then it made a little bit more than £3,000 and we were able to put it towards the next one. I would say the first 3 feature films were crowdfunded. And then from then, we were lucky to find ourselves some investors, people that... Actually, most of our private investors are people who have money, who are very, very, very successful in their own field of work and have always had a passion. So one of our investors, he used to be an actor and he's really interested in film. He makes a lot of money doing the successful business he's got, not related to the film industry at all, and just likes dabbling in films. So he then gives us money to go make films. He's part of it, he's a producer on it, and has his say in what the film turns out like, and we get our money that way. So that's how we've then got funding for the other 10 we've made since then. We're now branching out again. The problem with getting private investors on board is that you have to give a massive percentage of your profits away, because obviously, you know, they're giving you all their money. You can make the product, but they want their money back, and they want to, it's a business investment after all. So we're dabbling with grant money and all that, but they're so hard to do. We tried doing it back 10 years ago and were never successful. So you've got to have a bit of a background to your making in order to go forward with those. But you never know, this might be our year.
But again, it does go back to passion projects. I mean, I wouldn't film a wedding for free, and never have, never would. But I do one passion project a year, and it is something that I really care about. Again, as Lilla says, it brings back your creativity, but it also gets you out there. It gives you something to talk about other than just your business, and so that's really positive thing to do. Or, you know, do something for your soul, do something that you really care about, and, you know, make someone else smile and make someone else happy, because that will make you feel really good. So I did, I went to a workshop last year, and for Love's Sake, and I hadn't really even heard of, you know, Something for the Soul Passion Project before even. I was so busy doing, you know, working, I didn't have time for it. But quite soon after that, there was a teacher in the village where I live, and she'd worked at the school for 30 years, and she was leaving, and they asked if I would go in and interview the kids. Obviously, they all speaking in German and Swiss German, so that was tricky. I had to get my kids to translate. I thought, I can do something so much more than that. So I filmed her at work, and I filmed her coming up to the village on the train, going to work for the day. And she knew that she was being filmed, but I don't think she realised what was going to come out of it at the end. And I filmed one of the colleague teachers who was crying throughout the whole interview, and I put together a lovely little 4-minute film, and everybody that watched it, all the parents at the school, Tosca Hoddle, the teacher, everybody just cried and loved it, and it was just something that I was able for the school to give her as a memory of 30 years of her life teaching at this school. So it took a lot of work, especially because I don't understand the language so well. I have lived there 3 years. I am learning Swiss German, but it was so good for me. And at the moment, I'm working with some previous clients of mine from the Philippines about doing a passion project over there, but at the moment it's really early days, and if that doesn't come off soon, I need to find something, because I do think it's really good to, makes you feel really great. Is there any other questions? Yes.
So, when you first started in the industry, what resources did you use to teach yourself the basics of photography and videography?
Who do you want to put that to?
Anyone.
Okay, so when I first started, before I went into this industry, I used to spray tan. Had a beauty salon, and I was, I know, random. I had a child, and when he was 9 months old, I found myself accidentally getting pregnant again, and I was just like, how do I bring 2 children into a salon? I need to think about something else. So my best friend was a photographer, and she was like, why don't you just film a wedding? And I went, I can't film a wedding. So that week I was spray tanning a lady who I knew was getting married. So on the Wednesday, I said to her, I said, are you having your wedding filmed? And she was like, oh no, just a photographer. I said, oh, can I film it? And she says, if you want. So that night, I ordered a camera, a tripod and a light. And it came the next day, and I turned up at a wedding and I filmed it. And then I used good old YouTube to work out how to edit it, and then the rest is history. So no, just nothing. Wing it. No, honestly, I look at it and I think I love it just because it was done with one camera, one light, one tripod, and the footage. And I just think, because I knew nothing, I didn't even know how to take the footage off my camera and convert it digital because it was all tape then. I absolutely knew nothing, and looking back at it, it's just amazing. And she cried when she watched it, so it was a good thing.
My advice would be for you to not be put off by the technology and just use what basics. I mean, when I moved from video cameras to DSLR cameras, I bought it off a colleague, and he showed me quickly how to use it. And it's completely different using video. You've done this move recently from video to DSLR, and it was quite frightening, but you have to just go out there, because I thought, well, I can keep practicing at home, will you ever? Or you can just go to that wedding at the weekend. I got the camera on the Friday and I filmed the wedding on the Saturday, which was quite scary, but yeah, just keep it simple, you know, don't get too flashy with it, put everything in auto and you'll be, you know, yeah.
Don't put everything in auto. I actually used to hire. For the first 3 years, I hired all of my kit. I never bought. I think because it made me nervous, the outlay of spending 6, 10, 15 grand. Especially, I was on tapes back then as well. So spending 50, I think it would have worked out 18 grand to buy 2 kit to film a wedding. And I was like, I'm not paying it. I can't afford to pay it. So kind of hiring, but also the benefit of hiring is you can find what camera system would work really well for you. I think even when you were laughing, I've got my small camera with me now, I still hired that. I borrowed it off a friend and was like, can I just borrow your camera for a weekend? Let me figure it out. And he was like, just come to this wedding and just shoot the wedding with me. And then, yeah, and so it just, I think for me, I'm a bit more nervous about doing a big expense and trying something new. So I always take a step back and think, oh, well, I'll just practice here. I'll just practice there in the background. It's easier.
And also, I think it's important to remember not just equipment as resources, but human resources. Find a mentor, because it's, you know, information, knowledge that's equally or even more helping your development than equipment and learning about equipment. Because I had a mentor for a few years, and, you know, I could see firsthand what it's really like to work as a professional photographer and filmmaker, and what kind of struggles do you have to go through. And, you know, he taught me a lot of things that I would have taken a much longer time to learn by myself. So it's a nice shortcut to find a mentor. And it's good for them as well, because then you'll become their assistant and you'll be helping them on shoots or, you know, with editing or whatever they need. So you learn on the go in a relatively low pressure environment.
I think it's really important to say as well that you could have 2 people that have had exactly the same training, but one will be so much better than the other. I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but for me, and personally, I think it's kind of like you've either got an eye for it or you haven't. You know, there are people that can take photos and there are people that really can't take photos.
I think we've only got time for one more question. Yeah.
Hello, thank you everyone for all your advice. There was a segment that you spoke about promoting yourself. I just wanted to go around and ask everyone what platforms you use, each of you, to promote yourself, because I know you spoke about YouTube. I think that's an amazing idea. So I just wanted to hear what everyone uses as a way to promote yourself.
I've just, despite Mandy's success and knowing about it, I just ignored YouTube. But I have now got a YouTube channel, but it's my films are pushed from Vimeo, which is more business to business. I have Instagram as well. I don't have Twitter anymore, but then I think we'll all be using different things, but for me to promote myself, it's networking and it's referrals and recommendations and becoming recommended suppliers and recommended videographer and, you know, word of mouth. But I'm going to go along. So we'll start with Leanne, because obviously you do use Twitter, don't you? Because I guess depending on what field, people, like for my corporate business, I would use LinkedIn but I would never use that for weddings. So
yeah, I think it's really important to know your audience and then just target them. So, for example, I do all my work stuff is on Twitter because I work in news, and Twitter is more of a newsy platform where people go to get information. So that's where my presence is on social media. I use Instagram for my own personal benefit, my passion projects, I suppose, if you like. There's lots of pictures of food on there. So Instagram is totally just for me. I don't promote myself. I don't mention anything to do with work on Instagram for me. Twitter is my work platform. You just need to know your audience and then target that, I would say.
Yes, I mean, I would say I'm the opposite. I really like Instagram, and I think it's what you feel most comfortable with, but also where your ideal client is likely to be. You just need to know your client. Yeah.
Vimeo, 100%. It's a nice, high-quality playback, so really important for us. Facebook, not really. It's more of a personal thing for me. Instagram, as we know, I'm a bit rubbish, but yeah, Instagram. And my website, which is through WordPress.
Who is it you're trying to target? Have you got like...
Myself, I'm a filmmaker and director. So when you guys are saying like where your client is, I think it could be either or, do you know what I mean? Because there's different touch points that people can come in through. So people could find you on YouTube, or they could find you, I think when you're talking about referrals, people find you somewhere before you get referred. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how do you initially get eyes on you?
So it's being strategic from that point of view and working out what people are looking for before they find you. So going really far back and working out where their journey is. I found that out that my couples were all on Instagram, usually searching for venues, or they're never looking for a video straight away. They were looking for other things. So I have to do a lot of hashtag strategy research and work out what sort of things I might be looking for, so then I can make sure I'm putting them in there and doing that way, which is why I tried doing everything. It's impossible. So if you can streamline to try and do one thing and do it really well, that's where you'll get a better, more consistent audience, because you're being more consistent on there as well, if that helps.
For me, it's YouTube, and I think it's a good place to showcase your work, but I feel like you have to add a bit of value as well. So whether that's reviewing products or behind the scenes or questions and answers, you've got to sort of figure out what people would search for, and then you try and work to be there, as well as show off how awesome your stuff is as well. It's just about finding what people are after and filling the need.
So mine's YouTube and Facebook, but I don't think you really need to beat yourself up too much about it, because, I've had my business over 12 years, but I've only had a website for 2 years. So nobody really said to me, what's your website? Let me check out your work. Nobody ever really questioned me, and I don't even know. In fact, now I was even saying to Caitlin on the way here, I don't actually use my website. I don't actually promote my website and say, here, have a look at my work. I use Vimeo to put my work on, and then if a client's getting married and they want to see my work, I try to find a link with some of my work. So say, for example, they're getting married at a venue I know I filmed at, that's what I want them to see. Or if it's a bride who's, something special about her, I know I wanted to show her something in particular, that's the link I wanted to see. I don't want her to see a website with loads of footage on there that she's not really going to relate to. So I just think I don't think it's really important, really.
And obviously mine's slightly different, but we've got a very active Instagram account, so we primarily put as our photos, I think as you alluded to earlier, we put only our most beautiful professional photos or anything that suggests we're in a film festivals or whatever. But our stories are very much sort of looks into what it's actually like being on set with us behind the scenes. So we were filming a documentary about a Santa school just before Christmas, and it was all about seeing all the fun Santas in America and getting to know them. So it's more personable. So make sure you show the personable side of yourself as well as the quality of the stuff that you're able to deliver.
But basically, what? Sorry, Karen. Yes, yeah, they're all on from today. But basically, the overall answer is, and there's no straight way of getting around this. You have to get to know your audience. You have to get to know your client. You have to know who. You have to decide where that determines where you put yourself, and how, you know.
That I took myself off for a whole month and was like, can I get work even from not being on there? And it actually proved that I could. Because a lot of people can rely on like platforms and be like, that's the only way I get work. Like from networking in person, I feel like I've got more done than actually just trying to work off my phone and trying to get like find prospects and stuff.
Yeah, your Instagram is more of a reassurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do need a strategy. You can't just plonk anything on there. I mean. Yeah, and I still do too, but, you know, most of the time I try to have some sort of strategy. Okay, so really been a fantastic day. We've gone way over time probably. At the photography show, videography show is on at the NEC in Birmingham in March, late March. I think most of us, well, hopefully all of the ladies, all the ambassadors are going to be there, because on Monday the 16th at 3:30 on Shutter Street, there'll be another panel. We'll be talking about completely different things. As Heather said earlier, the photography show, the video show, isn't just a place to go and buy equipment. Although I did buy a drone that's still in its box last year. Literally, if anyone wants a drone. But it is great for, you know, meeting people, networking with people, joining groups, organisations, watching talks. I'm on every day, and some of my talks are inspirational and some of them are educational. But just go on the website, see what there is, because there will be something. There's everything from social media to the social stage is great. We can all learn. I mean, I don't just go there and just turn up to what I've got to be on. I'm just literally looking at what else there is on, who else is going to be there, and I think it's really valuable.
Bad reputation being quite masculine for years, isn't it? I know I was always warned off by friends like, oh, don't go, there'll be loads of guys with cameras and wanting big lenses and everything. In fact, I took my father-in-law one year and he bought one of them safari lenses, and I was... But there are still... But so there is quite a lot of that, so I think it can be quite intimidating thinking you're going to go to this huge event and there's going to be loads of guys and there'll be nothing appealable, but actually there's all these sort of talks, and I ended up going 2 days last year because there's so much value you can get from it. And if you're kind of making money or you're a professional filmmaker, you can get for free, you get free tickets. So it's personally been the best value I get from that, not just from buying lenses.
Or drones. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much for coming. It's really lovely to see you all, and perhaps we'll see you at the photography/video show in March.